But first, we were having a conversation in our group chat the other day, and this is going to be ruffle some feathers, I'm sure, with some people. We were talking about Harry Potter versus Star Wars as a franchise. What's better? What makes better films? But first, I want to pass you over to the resident Star Wars defender in Cameron, because I know he has some opinions. We didn't all agree on this, but Cam, what's your opinions?
Okay. I said this. Star Wars has higher highs and lower lows. I think every original trilogy Star Wars is better than. Actually, this is not true. I said this originally, but it's not true. I have Return of the Jedi at an 88 out of 100, and then Part 2 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows 89. So not technically true, but relatively close. Every original Star Wars is better or just as good as every Harry Potter. And then I think like every prequel is worse than almost every Harry Potter except Revenge of the Sith. I have higher than a couple of the Harry Potters, but I stand by like Harry Potter is one of the most consistent franchises, but never had an all-time great, incredible, amazing movie. And Star Wars, higher highs, obviously Empire is better than every Harry Potter, and I'll stand by that and fight everyone, especially Tyler, on that. But then, Attack of the Clones is probably worse than every Harry Potter. So that's my opinion.
I said this, like, it is so hard for a franchise to have 8 films. I don't think there's any bad films in Harry Potter. Like, I don't know what everyone else thinks, but Return of the Jedi.
Not bad.
It's not bad. No, it's not. It's not bad. I watched it fairly recently, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. I just think it's got a lot of pacing problems. The middle part was just so boring. It's not bad. It's still a decent film. Don't get me wrong, but I think there is, like, for me, majority of Harry Potter films actually beat Return of the Jedi, which is probably maybe a hot take. I know Tyler probably agrees with me maybe on that. I don't know what your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I gave Return of the Jedi a 7 out of 10. I'm looking at my overall Harry Potter rankings. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Harry Potters over that. I think Return of the Jedi, I agree with Seth. Like, the ending is great. The third act, great of Return of the Jedi, but the first 2 acts are so slow and so many pacing issues. I feel like they just were hyper fixated on Carrie Fisher as Slave Leia, and they were hyper fixated on all these cool costume design creatures that they had on these other planets. I feel like we didn't get much plot development in the first two-thirds of the movie. The final third kind of packed everything in, which was great. It's still a very good movie. It's not a top 100 movie, though. It's not a top 100 movie.
Weren't the what are they called? The little bear things. What are they called?
Ewoks.
Weren't they just pretty much a marketing piece anyway? Like, they were just brought into the film to produce toys out of them. Yeah, so they could make more money.
Star Wars has a lot of that in general, but
I mean, every film, to be fair. Like, I know, George, you're a big fan of Return of the Jedi and Star Wars, the original trilogy in general. I've seen your ratings of them. But yeah, I know that also Harry Potter is a big fan as well.
Yeah, I mean, if it weren't for Harry Potter and that franchise, I don't think I would have a TikTok today. I don't think I'd be as into film as I was. I also have Deathly Hallows Part 2, Order of the Phoenix, Goblet of Fire, and Prisoner of Azkaban all over Return of the Jedi. And I also have Rogue One over Return of the Jedi. So, like, my ranking of Star Wars and Harry Potter films, Return of the Jedi is sitting at number 8 right now. So I have it a little bit low. And I'm just going to echo what you guys said. It's the consistency for me. It's 8 films that aren't bad. Some of them might not be great, but there's no bad film. Star Wars has Attack of the Clones. Star Wars has Phantom Menace. Star Wars has Solo, which I don't even think is that bad of a movie, but it's still not great. Harry Potter put out 8 films in a decade, and I give all of them above a 3.5 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd.
I think about the same. Like, I'm going to say something to annoy Cam here, but I would have over Return of the Jedi.
Isn't that the point of this conversation?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, you guys have succeeded. But I mean, like, we knew that.
I would have over Return of the Jedi, Harry Potter wise. I would have Prisoner of Azkaban. I think that's obvious. I think that's fair. Like, Cam, give me a little. Yeah.
I'd have over Return of the Jedi. I don't have that, but I also don't have Prisoner. I don't like. I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's.
You don't have it's the highest one.
No, I've Deathly
Okay,
Hallows
fair
Part
enough.
2 as the highest one.
Oh, so I would have Deathly Hallows Part 2. I would have Half-Blood Prince. I would have Order of the Phoenix. I would have Goblet of Fire. I would have all of them over Return of the Jedi as a film. Maybe not the first two. I think that's going a little bit far. And also, I didn't like Deathly Hallows Part 1 that much as well. I think that's the general consensus. Deathly Hallows Part 1 was a little bit boring at times. But like, is there any Harry Potter films, Cam, that you would have over Return of the Jedi?
So I said I only have the one. I have Deathly Hallows Part 2. And
Deathly Hallows Part 2
89 out
over
of
it.
100. So I have my lowest rated Harry Potter is Chamber of Secrets at a 69 out of 100. Nice.
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 And so I have 4 Star Wars movies lower than that. So I have Solo, as you mentioned, a 60, Phantom Menace a 50, Rise of Skywalker a 48, and Attack the Clones 40. So I like to think I'm a relatively like level-headed Star Wars fan. I know people like I think it's the best franchise in the sense that like just I think it's my favorite franchise. Sorry, it's not the best. Lord of the Rings is the best. But
my question also, just to back up like Star Wars a little bit here, give a bit of defense. If we're including Harry Potter, does that mean we also include the Fantastic Beasts films
those suck.
in the? Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Like, are we including the Fantastic Beasts films in the Harry Potter franchise? Because technically, yes. So then we could also put them against Star Wars as well.
But also, when you say that Lord of the Rings is the best series, then when you're extending that, are you adding?
I don't say it's the best series. I say it's the best trilogy.
Yeah, I was more pointing at Cam. But if you're adding in the Hobbit to that, could that be the same thing as adding in the Fantastic Beasts?
Going back to it, then Toy Story's the best franchise.
Oh my god! No, but
I don't see a lie there.
It is. I mean, if you include the Hobbits.
Did you see
work Toy Story into every single episode?
I might.
Did you see the comments to the video we posted on TikTok about Toy Story 4? Like, a lot of people hate that film. I thought it was perfectly
people
fine.
hate it because it's unnecessary. They think it's unnecessary, but they refuse to watch it as just a movie. I stand.
But it's not even a bad
It's a
film.
good movie. It's a very good movie. As good as Interstellar.
Oh my god! Stop it!
It's not as good as Interstellar.
Speaking of Harry Potter, though, so Harry Potter, I don't know if it was the first franchise to do this. I think it was definitely the one to popularize it, to split the final movie into the part 1 and the part 2. I actually didn't hate how Harry Potter did it. I actually enjoyed part 1 of the Deathly Hallows more than I feel like most people. I really enjoyed the telling of the story of the Deathly Hallows, and obviously part 2 blows part 1 out of the water. But every franchise after that seemed to just really fumble the bag with the whole part 1, part 2 final movie. Like Hunger Games was very bad in my opinion. And I don't know. I feel like Harry Potter did a little disservice to the film community by doing that, because then everyone started copying the part 1, part 2 for their final book of the series or whatever. But I feel like at least how Harry Potter did it, I didn't have a problem with it. I enjoyed both part 1 and part 2.
No, I like them both.
What did you rate it? Because I think I gave it like a 3.5. I still think it's a decent film. Don't get me wrong.
I gave it a 7.1 for part 1.
Yeah,
I
that's
have it
fair.
78 out of 100.
See, this
Which
is
is
where
not bad.
having 4 of us on a podcast is good. I disagree with that completely. I don't think
Alright.
we needed a part 1 and part 2.
I don't think we needed it.
They split up Deathly Hallows into 2 movies and gave us 2 2-hour movies. And admittedly, part 1 drags a bit. If they had cut out a chunk of part 1, given us 1 3-hour movie, I don't think anyone would have complained.
I have a question for you then, George.
I agree.
Do you think so? I don't think they could have made part 2 as good as it was if they combined into a 3-hour movie. I think because then I think it drags part 2 down.
Why?
Just because it makes it too long, and then all the boring stuff is included in that movie. So I think people would hold it at a lower place.
Okay.
Like
And
just
without the
just
setup of the first one as well. I kind of agree with Cam. I think without that setup of the first one, yes, it was
Right.
boring at times, but it did do a good job in setting up the first part 1, part 2. Part 2 is always going to be better because it's the final conclusion. So without the part 1 there, like, there wouldn't have been that initial setup, and you wouldn't have anything to compare it to.
I can see where you're both coming from. I can see what George is saying and what Cam and Seth are saying. But the thing with part 2 is Harry Potter had that just decade run of those 7 movies build up. And then part 2, just right when it starts, it's go time. And that's why part 2, I just think is so peak. Is just because you have all these years of build up, all these movies. And then part 2, there's no preamble. There's no build up. It's like right when the movie starts, it hits the gas pedal and does not stop for 2 hours until it resolves.
Yeah, I think that
I
sounds-
agree.
I agree. I just rewatched Goblet of Fire all the way through Deathly Hallows Part 2, and
I think I've
Yeah,
rewatched.
you were on one.
oh my god,
think I've
these are
rewatched-
such good movies. It's unbelievable.
Goblet of Fire, I think, is like my most rewatched one. It's so fun.
Okay,
Goblet
so
of Fire is such a fun film. Honestly.
I don't get what they hate for Goblet of Fire. I know a lot of people say Prisoner of Azkaban is where Harry Potter took a dark turn, but like it's Goblet of Fire for me. That's where our characters like really matured and like turned into adults.
Can I say where I have Goblet of Fire and out of the 8?
Here we go, 7.
7.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have 3.
I have it third.
Now,
I have it third.
I
Yeah,
have
it
not
third.
watched the Harry Potters in when did HBO Max drop? 3
Oh,
years
yeah.
ago?
3 years ago.
Two
Is
years
it
ago.
only-
It was
Really?
quarantine. So I have not
Oh.
watched them since then. And like I'm not a Harry Potter guy. I like it a lot and I think the universe they build is very good. But like
And you
I
hate
haven't-
J.K. Rowling.
yeah, well she sucks. So
She does. So. Final conclusion. So I want an answer from all of you.
Harry Potter.
Star Wars.
Wait.
Harry Potter.
sorry. Actually, did we decide are we including Fantastic Beasts?
I'm not.
Okay, if we're
let's
not,
say
that's
no.
fine.
Let's say
No,
no.
that's fine. We don't have to because they are 2 separate universes, except this last one.
It wouldn't
just
change
like-
your mind anyway.
No, but I obviously I'm Star Wars, but I do have Crimes of Grindelwald lower than Attack of the Clones. I think that movie's ass. I have it at
Okay.
34 out of 100.
I would go
So, a
I would go
lower
Harry
low.
Potter. But George, Tyler, what are you saying?
Yeah, I mean, if I were to rank the greatest franchises of all time, I think I'm going to be putting Harry Potter above Star Wars.
Me as well.
Just for the sheer consistency and the fact that there's not one bad movie.
Yep. Echo that.
That's what he comes face right.
I mean, I'm Star Wars, so that I don't need to like.
It's preference.
I stand by like
No, bro.
it's a higher high, and
It-
the original trilogy is just as consistent to a better point, I think. But you know.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.